Likely suspect is a void energy fusion rifle and an archetype that inside of PvP I never really cared for. Like occasionally a Cartesian or like a Zealot would kill me and I would get kind of annoyed, but I never really looked at rapid fire frames in PvP as a competitive option until now. This fusion rifle, guys, is obtainable through Wellspring, and upon attuning this weapon, you can then start crafting the God roll. Now I actually went through a couple of different rolls, and again, I was more so trying to go for the PvP roll here because there's some fantastic perks, especially in the enhanced perks. I originally started off with successful warm-up though. This is such a great perk, guys. Essentially, every kill will drop your charge time, meaning that follow-up shots will be substantially faster. And this is noticeably so in certain situations where I have groups of enemies that are just coming down on me and I have to immediately get a shot off, or maybe a second volley of shots afterwards. The charge time overall, considering that this is a rapid fire frame in combination with successful warm-up and enhanced successful warm-up on that, is pretty damn amazing. Now looking at the base stats of the weapon, it does have a 50 recoil direction, which is pretty awful. So you do want to throw on a counterbalance mod. And originally I went into this thinking that maybe I can load out stability on this weapon and use heating up with successful warm-up, which for the most part, it kind of worked, except on the first kill, right? Because this weapon is a rapid fire frame and there is a lot of spread. I mean, you're shooting 9 bolts out, which is a lot of bolts, and they're only doing 30 damage per bolt, meaning you have to land 7 of the 9 to get a kill, not taking into account damage fall off. The situation I was running into was, yes, heating up and successful warm-up worked so well together, but nothing was helping you with that first kill. And it's okay to use weapons that build up to a certain point, right? Take Shayura's Wrath with tunnel vision and kill clip. Yes, that weapon becomes an auto-aiming monster once you get a kill, but the base version of Shayura is already so good. The issue here with Likely Suspect is something that plagues many rapid fires, is that they're just too inconsistent, especially on that initial shot, which actually led us to try out Enhanced Firmly Planted. Now I like Enhanced Firmly Planted even over Perpetual Motion, Slideways, and I know both of those perks you can get them enhanced, but the reason why Firmly Planted is so good is number one, it states right here that it greatly increases accuracy, stability, and handling when firing while crouch. And we've seen some of the nomenclature used here by Bungie, but when they start saying things like greatly or substantially, those are massive improvements. To what extent? I'm sure at some point Bungie is going to actually disclose that in maybe a podcast or something, but a common thing that is constantly repeated is that when it comes to scalars, so accuracy for instance, there is no cap. So if something says that it greatly increases accuracy, there isn't like an accuracy stat that has a cap on the top of it, right? It's a scalar, and Bungie has the freedom to manipulate that however they want, and in this case, they're doing that greatly. Now guys, this one change right here, yes, it turned my fusion rifle into a monster. We were going around popping shots off into everything, and sitting at 65 recoil direction, we also decided to max out our range, considering that we're completely leaning on Firmly Planted to pick us up the rest of the way, which is why we ended up rocking Projection Fuse in full bore. Now, is Likely Suspect the fusion rifle to replace all fusions? Honestly, I think Main Ingredient is still a better or easier option to use. What Likely Suspect does, though, is it's actually a good counter to Apes. Main Ingredient in those fusion rifles, you really have to bait people into those lanes, right? This fusion rifle, being a rapid fire, you can play fairly aggressive with it. And when it comes to baiting enemies to you, you can actually bait them in shorter corridors. Because it's a rapid fire and because you can do a follow-up shot with it so fast, you have more freedom here to choose where you want to fight. There are certain maps, even with Main Ingredients and other fusion rifles, that I have to position myself only in certain locations, because if I don't, a shotgun will meet me way before I can get the entire charge out. And once you get a kill going, those follow-up shots with successful warm-up is fantastic. And by the way, if you haven't checked out our bow review, we also reviewed a bow, Under Your Skin, which can roll with successful warm-up as well. Now, let me talk about successful warm-up a little more before we get into the PvE rolls. This is a perk that you do have to get used to. Number one, I want you to think back to Plan C, and I think ZK was the first one to make the comparison here. But when you get that first kill, yes, you're talking like Plan C levels of charge time. And you were either really good with Plan C or you were bad with it. It was just because when swapping to the weapon, it would blow its load so fast, you didn't even have time to even find the target. I think successful warm-up is better with its trait simply because the weapon is already in your hands. There's no weird crazy swap. It's not like backup plan where the weapon has to have like good handling, or it's going to be literally firing before the animation is even done on the draw, and it doesn't limit your damage. There's nothing here diminishing the damage here even after getting a kill. It's a raw drop there in charge time, but you will have to get used to how fast it gets that charge out. Secondly, do not swap weapons when you get a fusion rifle kill. I know many of us are constantly swapping weapons. Every time you swap weapons after getting a fusion rifle kill and successful warm-up is procced, when you swap weapons, it drops that benefit. So keep that in mind, guys. You want to keep successful warm-up activated as much as possible. So literally be a fusion rifle main. Now, when it comes to these rapid-fire fusion rifles, it's all about rocking a scavenger perk and shooting out as much ammo as possible. There is nothing wrong with shooting 2 fusion rifle shots out just to secure that 1 kill. Sometimes it shakes the enemy up enough that literally after the first bolt pattern, they just don't know how to react. I will say though that with firmly planted and with dropping to that knee, you're gonna get way more 1-hit kills at very good ranges for a rapid fusion. Now for PvE roles, I'm gonna continue showing PvP gameplay, but we were using this the other day inside of PvE with volatile flow. It's some stream video content, but it's kind of blurry and I didn't want to show it, but regardless, it's extremely potent even inside of PvE because it is a void weapon. As far as the perk combinations to go for PvE, I love the idea of a stats for all, 1 for all combo, right? That sounds really, really good, especially considering this is a non-bolt pattern weapon. You can easily spread those fusion rifle bolt patterns out to hit multiple targets at once, and voila, you have both of those procs. You also have Wellspring. If you're looking to just purely drive up ability energy, which as we've seen from Void 3.0 is absolutely amazing, a Wellspring Slideways combo is always a great option. And Adagio is also present on this weapon. Now I will say Adagio has different effects depending on the weapon, right? For fusion rifles, it's actually a 27% increase there in damage. And remember, Adagio just got a bump from 5 seconds to 7 seconds. They also added on plus 10 range. Adagio is a perk that I actually want to consider even inside of PvP. However, keep in mind with that buff there and damage, it does increase that charge rate. I know the wording here can get confusing, but essentially it's a longer charge time. By the way, for primary weapons like hand cannons, auto rifles, etc., those weapons got a 30% buff from Adagio. Outside of that, we also have Golden Tricorn. Now, this is a perk I'm still playing with. And again, this is where the freedom of choosing our enhanced perks really annoys me. I mentioned the other day how we should have the ability to unlock an enhanced trait and not have to repurchase it again. But Golden Tricorn allows for final blows for the weapon to grant bonus damage. And while this buff is active, grenades or melee kills of the same damage type greatly increases the damage for an improved duration. So it lasts longer. And again, the buff sequence there, it lasts up to 7 seconds. The second stack requires a matching element melee or grenade kill, which is super easy considering we have Void 3.0 now, which will increase it to 10 seconds, and you get that 50% increase there in damage. So even more than 1 for all. So you can already see some of the benefits and synergy we can work here inside of PvE that can make this a very good option. But as for PvP, firmly planted, enhance, successful warm-up, enhance with max range is the combination that I'm going for. We're gonna try Adagio out at some point. Regardless though, guys, this is a great fusion rifle. And if you get used to using rapid fire fusions, they will catch many enemies by surprise. They're just not expecting that super fast charge time. And then they're even surprised even more by the follow-up shots. Let me know in the comments below what you think of this fusion. We're gonna be looking at other weapons for the rest of this week. We have a ton of patterns to go for. It is a grindy process, guys. I'm trying to really level these weapons up and show you these weapons in their most enhanced form. Come by our stream though if you're interested in watching us grind. Fellas and ladies, thank you all for coming and watching. And as always,
Slap that like button like your mama told you right.